Okay, let me make sure I'm online. Okay. Hello, I'm Alex from A.P. Inc. So today I'm going to be picking up or continuing my interpretation of Mermay. So I forgot to get my list ready. I'm sorry. Hang on a moment. Okay. So just in case you're drawing along, this is my list for my interpretation of Mermay. I've decided to call it Starfish at the Toga Olympics. So I'm not doing these in order, I'm just doing them as I see fit. So I thought today I would do. I'm just trying to find it on the list. Shot put, number 15. So I've got this very blown out reference. I'm going to give you the same reference so maybe you can see it better. That's not the right one. There's the shot put reference, and then the reference I've been using for toga. So I've got a piece of sketchbook paper, a 2H pencil, some more supplies off to the side. Trying to decide if I want to do this one, portrait or landscape. I think I've done all of them landscape so far. But based on the reference, at what point I should try to depict this guy like in motion for actually throwing this shot put. Maybe this middle one. Let me tone down the reference. Let me tone down my screen. So the center one here, the center one on the reference, you have that one there. See, if I had him actually like throwing, I could use this space for that motion. But I think maybe I could get away with doing it portrait for the center reference. I don't think I've ever seen anybody throw a shot put in real life, so I'm kind of following the reference a bit more closely. I'm trying to place the back arm. I feel like I'm making his upper arm too thin. And it kind of overlaps itself. So to try to make that make sense. I don't know. Maybe if I look at what I've already drawn, this will help me somehow. I was gonna have the fingers kind of like tilted back a bit more because I can't see the references, the fingers, but maybe it would make, I don't know, because if you're gonna toss something, you wouldn't really want to hold it. It almost looks like, I don't know, kind of like slingshotting it forward. So you wouldn't be gripping the ball but like kind of like cradling it, I guess, before you whip it out. So it might be hard to see, but I've got him kind of curling his hand over it, which originally I had it more like tilted back. And I think that might make more sense. So just for reference, I'm just gonna lightly put in where the shoulder part of his toga is. So I can kind of gauge where the front part of the toga might land. Sorry, I will be right back. For anybody watching, are you participating in Mermay? And if you are what list are you, what prompt list are you going off of? Somebody else's, or did you make one up yourself? I don't know, this arm is still looking weird. Okay, so here his legs are kind of, I don't know, split, and so that opens up the divide in this side of the tunic, but from the reference, the tunic comes down further on the other side here. So, and I should have done this in some of the other ones, but I think given that, like, so far I've been drawing running, maybe I can get away with not putting that in. But I think here, even though he is doing movement, it's not as much as if he were running. So I think you'd be able to see some of the other side. Okay. I'm gonna move on to the line art. So I've got a black brush pen. For as much as I've drawn him moving, I feel like maybe it's not moving enough. Okay, I'm gonna give that a minute to dry and then erase the pencil and ink it. So, like I said last time, I've already established the colors for the toga. So I'm just gonna grab those colors. And then it's just a matter of picking out what I want the skin color to be. Okay, I think starting with the easy part, the belt. So forest green for the base color. I'm not sure what color a shot put is. Here it looks like it's a blue. I feel like they're metal, but I don't know if that's true. Should I should I look up a reference for that? So I've got this teal color for the fabric. So I want to see what a shot put is made out of first. Okay, this says a shot put is typically made of the following materials: solid iron, commonly used for its durability; brass, another popular material for shot puts; steel, sometimes used particularly in competition grade shot puts; lead. Occasionally, shot puts may have a lead core or be filled with lead. Other materials, any metal not softer than brass may also be used. These materials ensure that the shot put has the necessary weight and density for competitive throwing. So they are metal. Let me just look up a reference for a shot put, because being metal, unless it's like coated, it can rust. Okay, so the one she's holding looks black. Maybe? That looks two-toned. You can't actually see. that one looks two-toned. I can't zoom in anymore. But the one she's holding looks black. You can't tell what that one is. The one he has, I don't know. It looks like he's coated it in some kind of powder if you look at the side of his neck. This one looks yellow. See, I've seen this too, where for whatever reason the shot put is on a cord. That one's red. Okay, maybe shot put equipment. Okay, so I guess they can come in all kinds of colors. So blue, kind of like bubblegum pink, blue, red, black, purple, like a teal color, yellow, actual like steel. You probably didn't see any of that. So I guess I can make it whatever color I want. Okay, continuing with the fabric. Okay, maybe what I'll do, I do have this really dark gray. I'll make the shot put gray and then go over it with a white gel pen to try to maybe make it look shiny. Hopefully that actually makes sense. Maybe it wouldn't make sense anyway. I don't know if they even still do shot put in Olympics. Let's look that up. Okay, according to this, yes. Figure out what color to do the skin, and then I'll add the shiny. Okay, I think maybe vermilion. I want to see if this coral pink is dark enough for the shadow for this vermilion. I think it's too close. I've got a second vermilion. I think that'll work. So this vermilion for the base color and this vermilion to shade it. I forgot to shade under the shoulder part of the toga. I don't know what that's actually called. This bit here that you can only see the smallest bit of. Okay, and then vermilion to shade the lighter vermilion. Okay. So I've got a little bit of time left. Let me put this to the side. Oh, wait. I want to actually add white shiny to the shot put. So yesterday I had started my interpretation of the stadium that these toga Olympics are going to be held at. So I want to see if I can progress this. Okay, so let me switch the references. So there's the inside and there's the outside. So I'm trying to depict both. The inside will be here. I'm just gonna kind of recap just in case you weren't here for my last for the first one. So I'm gonna have the inside go across here, and then the outside kind of wrap around here. But so back, at least for what I could find, in the 8th century, the Olympics were a completely different thing. They didn't play all the games that we play now. or that are played now. So this is supposed to be in Rome. And in this center section here, it was filled with water, and they would have full-size boats that they would have like water war games in. So this is from here up. So from here up. And then this I'm trying to wrap this part around here and then try to show just maybe the top section of arches come around here so that you can see inside where the water is. So I'm trying for perspective. I still have a long way to go to try to wrap my head around perspective. I wish I had spent more time on this last year, but hopefully it still comes across as to what I'm trying to do. I think for the space, see, I don't want this outer section to come all the way up here to this kind of like halfway horizon line. I want to be able to see inside, so to take some okay, I was gonna say to take some artistic liberties, but this section here is here. This section here is here. And it comes down one more tier. So that actually will work. I just need to carry this diagonal line down one more section. Again, taking artistic license with this. Okay, so this section here is longer in the reference than this section, but this section and this section are the same, I think. So this is a little less than yeah. This is a little less than 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna carry this down and mark it out. And then just really lightly to pull that line across. So here, this diagonal line and this diagonal line are kind of in line with each other, but this diagonal line is offset. So that's gonna kind of end up being in line with each other though. Because, okay, here is that line, and then the box, and then that diagonal line, and then the box. Then there'll be another pillar. Again, not trying to 100% artistic license. I'm just trying to figure where I kind of messed this up. That this diagonal line is basically going to be in line here. I guess it doesn't really matter because artistic license, but I would like to try to figure that out at some point, how I messed up the alignment. Okay, so there is like a ridge that kind of separates this ridge here that separates this part from this part. Okay, so that is 1 tick mark beyond 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to pull that down 1 tick mark down from 1/8 of an inch. You just have to wait for my eyes to adjust to what I'm trying to look at here. Okay, so this is kind of like a sharp cutoff here. So this is about 2 1/8 of an inch. So to carry that down here, there's a pillar. There's another pillar here. And here. And then to measure the distance between the pillars, that is 3/4 of an inch. So to bring that here for where this section continues, and then to figure out where the angle of this section of wall hits. So I'm going to measure I was going to say 1/4 of an inch total, but I think that's going to be too wide. So to try to, hopefully you can see this, there's a bump out under the pillars that's kind of like built out from the wall, but it's the same width, I think, as the pillar. So going back to this measurement, it's a tick further or more than 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to pull for this section of the wall. Okay, so 1/8 of an inch. to put in these bases, I guess. I don't know what to call them. Hopefully I can make this all make sense when I get to inking this, which I don't anticipate being able to ink this today, but just to try to continue the construction. Okay, so I might be a bit too close here for where I'm placing. I don't know. For sure, this looks shorter than this, but then that looks wider than this and this. So my measurements are off. It doesn't. I'm trying to figure if this is actually like where the wall comes down, if that's like in the center, or if it's offset. It might be in the center. I think I found the center between these two. So we're just gonna pull that down. And then there are arches here. So I think I measured down 1/4 of an inch. Before I put in the arch though, there is space between the bottom of this line here and the top of the arch. I never measured for that here. I feel obligated to try to fix this. Okay, so I'm gonna measure down 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to do that here as well. Measure down 1/8 of an inch for where the top of the arch will hit. And then I think to try to accommodate this bump out for where the arch hits, I'm going to measure down from this line 1/4 of an inch. Let me actually make that measurement on both sides. The more I look at this, the more I'm seeing things that are wrong. So it's not just the arch. There is kind of a bump out on either side. The like support of the arch. I mean, aside from this kind of support for the arch, so I think to adjust out 1/8 of an inch from the pillar to make that kind of boxy support. So it'll end up being 1/4 of an inch. Which narrows the arch quite a bit. So creating that same bump out here, the support for the arch. So yeah, not looking quite as round. I mean, I might also have this out a bit more, these support sections might be pushed out a bit more than they should be. I mean, you can see this section of support, this section of support, and where the pillar is. Yeah, I think my measurements are just too narrow. To try to erase and do it again, or just to keep going as is. I mean, I could take the bump out, so to get rid of these and have it go just like the full distance. I think to just take that out and have it go the full distance to try to create that fuller shape. I can go as far as to add a little bit, just like a sliver. So there's the hint of something there without taking away the more open shape. I think that's better. Okay, now here you can see, okay, so this slope is here, this slope is here, this slope is here, and then there's this slope here. So it would be open here, but to accommodate this, I think it would make more sense to have one full row and then be able to see the inside, because this section is here, this section is here, this section is here, and then this is like the where the water would hit here. So this would already be below the water level. I think I'm going to give myself, because this section looks quite tall, so I think a 1/2 inch. That's a 1/2 inch. It didn't look right. My measurements were off somewhere. Okay, so this section is this section. So I've got to continue with the inside arches across the rest of here. And then what I tried to do is this section here slopes down into this section, so there won't be anything else here. It's just a matter of continuing the arches all the way across, and then creating more arches across here. But to decide, because I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom of the paper. Let me just go ahead and mark where this is going to end. So to measure from this center point down, one inch, 1/2 inch, 1.5 inch plus 1/8 of an inch. I'm not sure what that is, but I'll measure down 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/8 of an inch, and then from that point down, these bottom arches hit directly on the ground. I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll create another layer of this kind of decorative, I guess, spacer. Let me pull this measurement over. So 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/8 of an inch. That doesn't look right. Okay, I need to measure from this line. This isn't right, because I'm measuring from this bottom line. So this is about an 1/4 of an inch. So to measure 1/4 of an inch here, and then from that line to measure down, try to get a more accurate mark. So 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and then 1/8 of an inch. That still doesn't look right. Okay, let's see if I can do it this way. So from that mark down, it's about 3/4 of an inch. So to measure up 3/4 of an inch. That still doesn't look right. Okay, so I didn't really progress this that much, just a little bit, but I have run over time, so I have to stop this here. If you'd like to see the continuation of this and day 5 of my interpretation of Mermay, please make sure that you're following me and that your notifications are turned on so that you're notified for the next time I either go live if you're watching me here on Twitch, or that you're subscribed and that your notifications are turned on YouTube if you're watching after the fact. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.